The idea behind the book that I'm currently 62-ish thousand words into out of a goal of 85,000, although I might have to change that goal at some point, has evolved a massive amount over the course of writing it. It was about a gang war within two huge gangs that are taking over the city, and the main character is just somewhere in the middle of that. And while the emotional arc at the center of it was the same, I was originally planning for it to be much more epic. Not really techno thriller exactly, like those thrillers that are, the Russians have created a super bomb. Wait, another super bomb? Yes, another super bomb. Send in Jack Chinkleberry, our agent, you know, those kinds of novels. But something almost at that level of epicness, if you catch my drift. I was also originally thinking, like, okay, I'm writing a thriller. I'm gonna plan, there's gonna be like a really action-y fight here, there's gonna be action here, and, you know, there is action, so to speak, in the current formulation that I have of this idea. But in the beginning, I was trying to write a thriller, if you catch my drift. So, you know, there has to be fights, there have to be short chapters. For some reason, thrillers have 70 billion short chapters in their books, while fantasy has like 30 long ones. I don't understand it. And there's gotta be, you know, big stakes. The whole city is involved in this big gang war. And the original focus was always the internal state of the character and his arc over time. And I was originally fighting to try and balance that with the grandiosity of the overall overarching plot that I had planned. And at a certain point, I just needed to accept that I really couldn't focus on all that if I wanted to actually focus on what mattered for the story, even if it was less epic. I think at first I was honestly trying to write something that's a bit more mainstream, a bit more marketable, even if I wasn't thinking like I'm going to make it similar to other thrillers because I want to sell it, because, you know, I want to be selling the same thing. I was kind of leaning more in that direction towards what's standard for the thriller genre, but as time has gone on, I've moved more towards where I'm pretty comfortably putting it now. I'd say it's much more of a slow-burning psychological book. And it probably would sell worse as it is now these days, if I'm going to be completely honest with myself and with you as the viewer. Because as I've discussed with my stepdad, slow-burning, slower-paced books, even thrillers, did sell back in the day. They really don't sell as well now because, you know, people's attention spans are shorter. Every kind of book really, I think, has become faster paced. I've read some older romances. I read romances because it's very comedic, the way that they're written. And older romances, there's a lot of buildup. They meet on even not that early on sometimes. And, you know, at first they don't even like each other, then they begin talking, then, you know, they'll maybe have sex at page, like, 187, or somewhere like that. But nah. Romances these days, it's, like, page 50 at the latest is the first sex scene, and I literally read a romance once where they were conspiring to have sex from the very first page. Granted, different genres, but I think that speaks to a larger trend among readers and modern writing in general, where everything has become a lot faster paced. People don't really seem to have as much patience. And to be clear, I do like me a fast-paced book every now and then. It's just that, you know, not every book needs to be fast-paced. There's so many tutorials out there how to write a fast-paced book, how to make your book faster-paced, as if just being faster-paced is just better, period. And I kind of fell into that trap a little bit at the beginning, but I think my story is better currently and will be better at the end now that I've let that go. You know, Brandon Sanderson, he sells like crazy. This book is almost 800 pages. This is slow burning as fuck. And it's not a bad book. An interesting note, the title has also had to evolve over time. At first, the title was Fire Doesn't Smell Like Nothing. And it was trying to be clever. I don't even remember what thought process was coming up with that title. And also I was like, damn, that's a really long title though. And then because, you know, the central core theme of the novel is the main character starts as a very rule-following guy. He broke some rules in the past and it haunts him and he doesn't like it, but then he's forced to break rules again and he's like, damn, I kind of like this. Oh no. So I chose the title Made to be Broken, because rules are made to be broken. I'm so clever, except that's the title of an existing book. I didn't check because I figured who would happen to pick specifically these words to make their book about. Nope. There's a famous author, apparently, who has a book titled Made to be Broken. So now I have to change it, and I'm in the process of deciding what the new name is going to be. Comment below if you have any ideas for what the name could be, because I'm really stumped. Besides for check that your title isn't already in use, and also don't just focus on making something fast-paced and epic just for it to be fast-paced and epic. Focus on the pacing and level of grandiosity that works best for your story. Besides for those two lessons, I'd say the biggest lesson that I learned from writing my second novel, especially as opposed to writing my first, is to focus on quantity over quality. Focus on hitting a certain volume. What I mean by that is that if you want to improve the quality of your writing, you can't focus on writing everything that you write at a high quality. You need to be willing to just not focus on quality at all and just write a bunch of things. And most of them are going to suck. But eventually, over time, as you get feedback, and you do take into account some quality things, of course, you're trying to do your best as you write, but you're not stopping and being like, this sentence, I don't know if it's going to sound good. Just write. My first novel, I really tried to write good, and, after a certain point, I gave up on that, and the writing actually became better and went a lot faster. But especially in the second novel, I've just been letting fly, and it is so far ahead of where my first novel was. There are scenes that I've written in this novel that I may, or even some that I probably will either drastically shorten or just completely cut from the book. And I'm alright with that, because whether or not I end up using it, having written it is the useful thing in the first place. Your first few novels, you're probably not going to publish them anyways. Just send it.